Whitley, the Associate Superintendent of Communications and Community Engagement for Cumberland County Schools. Welcome to Cumberland Family Academy's Coffee Conversations. This monthly show allows us to provide timely information to the families of our school system. During each episode, we discuss relevant topics and chat with district and community leaders who share important information with our viewers. In today's episode, we are covering a few topics on this episode. We will have E.E. Smith High School's social worker, Mr. Anthony Persina. Then later in the episode, our Director of Safety and Security, George Hall, will be joining us to preview an exciting new event that is coming to Cumberland County Schools. It's called Community Conversations. So please stay tuned and enjoy this episode. First up, I want to say this month is National Social Work Month. And earlier this month, we celebrated School Social Worker Appreciation Week. And so today, as we jump right into this segment, I'm very excited to bring Mr. Anthony Persina from E.E. Smith High School to join us this morning. Thank you, Mr. Persina, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
He is a social worker, and he was a professional soccer player in London, England. And now he also coaches the boys and girls team at E.E. Smith High School. So we're very excited to have him join us this morning. And so first of all, if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been with the school system.
So I'm originally from New York, but I've been with Cumberland County Schools for 2 years now. I was a social work intern. Then I became a substitute teacher. And then I was an ISS teacher before being offered a social work position here at E.E. Smith in July.
Good deal. So I know we think of a social worker. I think a lot of us probably think we know what you do, but for the viewing audience, I can imagine never is there a duplicate day. You know, I'm sure every day is different for you. So if you would just tell us a little bit about what it means to be a school social worker.
It means a lot. The reason I started and I wanted to become a school social worker is to help kids primarily with learning disabilities. I think that's really important to ensure that they get a fair education. There's also a lot of not so good situations that you see these young men and women find themselves in, and it's not their fault. And it's a law. They're mandated to go to school. So making sure they're in school, and when they're here, we can see them. The staff can see them. We can talk to them and see what's going on and just try to connect them with resources or help them in any way that we can.
You know, I often think about how we have the conversation about the importance of education. And, you know, our young people are here to learn. But I know that there are so many challenges that our young people face on a daily basis. And, you know, we don't have to get into the specifics of any given situation, but when you think about some of the challenges that we see throughout the district on a daily basis, what are some of those challenges that we're faced with?
I think right now, one of the biggest ones is getting the kids back in school. Everybody for the last two and a half years was adjusted to virtual because of COVID. I think transitioning back to normal life has been the biggest issue that we've had so far. We have a lot of students submitting work online, but their attendance is terrible. And we're making these truancy mediation referrals and, you know, home visits and reaching out to parents. And I just think transitioning back to normal has been a huge struggle for everybody.
So as we think about the role of our school social workers and the challenges that we're facing, what are some of the bright spots, I guess, that you're seeing right now as we think about your role and really the joy that you experience in your role as a school social worker?
I think making relationships with the staff and the students. You know, a lot of people associate a school social worker with negative things. But I like to flip that around. Myself, my partner, Miss Wendy McLean, we work together very closely. We'll be telling the parents, and the kids will be like, hey, if there's anything good, let us know. Just check in. We're very personable. We're very lenient. We're very understanding. And I think that's, you value that when you have good things to talk about, not always bad things.
So I know what's on some people's mind today, as we talk about school work, social workers, and specifically you as a social worker. How did you learn about Cumberland County Schools? Tell us a little bit about your path to getting to E.E. Smith High School. How did you find yourself here in our district?
I transferred schools after I came back from England to UNC Pembroke. I wanted to work in the school system, primarily to help kids. Originally thought I wanted to be a physical education teacher. Found out that that's not really for me, but I wanted to help kids directly. Found out what social work was, and I was lucky enough to get a school internship here at E.E. Smith. After my internship was over, I had offers from 4 different schools in Cumberland County, and 2 schools in Wake County, but I just felt like E.E. Smith was there was more of a need, so I wanted to stay and help in any capacity. So the only job they had for me was a permanent sub, so I took that. Shortly after, their ISS teacher left, or RJC teacher left, I took that role, just trying to help E.E. Smith in any capacity that I could. And then in July, I was offered a position to become an official school social worker here.
Good deal. So now, prior to becoming a social worker, I understand that you played professional soccer. And so can you tell us a little bit about that journey? I think it's very cool how we have a diverse teaching force, a diverse group of educators here, and professional support staff. And so the fact that we have a former professional soccer player is pretty amazing. So will you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yes, I played 2 years at Lewisburg College, and won a national championship, and then went to play academy for Brighton and Hove Albion. And then for 1 season, it was fantastic. I loved it. I was a little homesick though, wanted to come back. But yeah, and then transitioned to UNC Pembroke. Still played every once in a while, but I really just wanted to focus on school, getting my degree, and find a job that's meaningful. And I've accomplished that. So.
Well, for our students here in Cumberland, we're certainly glad that you came back. And for those who are just joining us, we're here on Coffee Conversations, and we're talking with Mr. Anthony Persina, who is a social worker at E.E. Smith High School. And we're just talking about the wonderful work that our social workers do every day for our young people. Mr. Persina, someone today may be watching this particular episode and they're wondering, as a community member, how they can support and some of the things that they could do to help, the students who are in need in our school system. And so if someone wanted to ask that question, what would be your answer to them?
I know it sounds strange, but donating men's clothing. Whenever we have a clothes drive, there's a lot of female clothing that gets donated, and the young men are kind of left out, because young men kind of hold on to their shirts for years. So that's a big one. That's a very big one, that I've noticed in the last couple months or so.
Excellent. Well, on the screen, you will see a way that if you would like to get involved in the school system, we have a website set up for community engagement opportunities. Here in Cumberland County Schools, we realize that we cannot do this work alone, but it does require all of us working together on behalf of our young people. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Mr. Persina. And is there anything else that maybe I've missed today? Anything else that you would like to share? Final thoughts before we close out.
I would say, if there's something that needs to be done and it's very hard, you should probably do that thing.
You heard it here. Thank you for that advice. To our viewing audience, thank you for watching. Mr. Persina, thank you for being here. Your story is very inspiring, and it's just exciting to hear from someone from the professional world who is giving back to our community and mentoring our students and just helping us be a better school system. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, now we're jumping right into segment 2. And I'm excited to have our Director of School Safety, George Hall, with us today. And we're going to talk about an exciting event that is coming to Cumberland County Schools next month. It's called Community Conversations. Now, Community Conversations will take place on Thursday, April 20th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Kiwanis Recreation Center on Dever Street in Fayetteville. And the topic, you guessed it, is school safety. Let's talk about it. We know across the nation, districts are facing an uptick in school violence. Now, I'm thankful that here in Cumberland, we have some great safety protocols in place, but we'd like to strategize with you, our parents and families and community members about ways that we can intensify our efforts to provide a safe learning environment for our children and a working environment for our employees. And so we're going to have door prizes, dinner, and everything. And so today I'm excited about having Mr. Hall here to help us. He will be there at the Community Conversations to help lead this discussion. So good morning, Mr. Hall. Thank you for being here. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Dr. Whitley. Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. So school safety, before we get into it, just a few questions. But first of all, about you, how long have you worked in the area of safety and security?
Almost 20 years. I have been in law enforcement for a large portion of that time. And I've been with the Cumberland County Schools now for over a year. So I've been doing this a long time.
Good deal. So we certainly appreciate the experience that you're bringing to this conversation. When we think about the topic of school safety, one might ask, but I want to ask you, why would you say that this is an important conversation for us to have as a school safe system?
Well, the important thing is to get the community involved as well. We can't do all of this by ourselves. Safety at school and our function is just a portion of what we need help with. For instance, people need to be mindful of what they see if they're dropping their kids off. They need to be mindful of the see something, say something anonymous reporting. These can all help us when we're trying to keep their children safe. Now, our community leaders can help us with this partnership, and that's why this is very important for us to talk about.
I agree. I know that, we've received grants as a school system in the past. We have several, security protocols in place. And so I want to applaud you and your team for doing such a great job. But like you said, there's so much more that we can do together. I think, like you said, hearing from my parents and hearing from our students when they see something, even if they're not sure what it is, if something looks off, just reaching out or reporting that anonymous tip is so very important. And that's why we want to have this community conversation. Once again, it's called Community Conversations, and it's coming up on April 20th at 6 p.m. at the Kiwanis Recreation Center on Dever Street in Fayetteville. The title is School Safety. Let's talk about it. Now, Mr. Hall, when you think about this particular event, we're going to have hopefully board members there, teachers, principals, community members, everyone present. And what I think is very exciting about this event is that it will give everybody a chance to talk together at a table, because I believe that we all play a role in this school safety. And I think there are things that maybe we can learn. As you think about the post pandemic time that we're in now, what are some of the differences? I know you've been in law enforcement for, decades now. And so as you think about 15 to 20 years ago, up until now, what are some of the biggest changes or challenges or differences that you've seen in your time in the safety and security industry?
Well, the challenges are the unknowns that we don't know. People have changed, lifestyles have changed. Access to social media is probably one of the biggest influencers now, what with TikTok challenges and people daring each other to do stuff on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. So I think social media is probably one of our biggest impacts on safety and security over the last several years, 15 to 20 years probably. And that leads to problems with security within the schools and the behaviors that we're seeing.
I got you. Now, I can imagine, and I have a little bit of insight because I do hear from your office occasionally, just about 5 times a day. No, I'm joking. But as we think about all of these threats and, individuals posting things, now, do you really track down every one of those? Do you take all of them seriously? Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Just that process, if you do receive a threat or if somebody posts something on social media, how does that work?
We take every single threat seriously, and we and law enforcement and the school investigate that until its conclusion. We don't just leave it hanging. We don't say, oh, well, he's just running his mouth or anything like that. We investigate it, which includes sheriff's office going to houses to check for weapon availability, talking to the parents, finding out exactly what's going on with the child. Um, we have to make sure that there is not a possibility that he could carry out or she could carry out this type of threat before we can actually close the book on it. And even at the end of that, if we feel like we need to refer them to a counselor or something like that, we do that as well.
Good deal. So it sounds like y'all have a great protocol in place as a school system. We take every threat seriously because ultimately our goal is to keep all of our students and staff members safe. And I'm just grateful for all of the hard work that you all are doing. And so when we think about this event, once again, for those of you who are just joining us, I'm here with Mr. George Hall, our Director of Safety and Security here in Cumberland County Schools. And we're talking about an upcoming event called Community Conversations that will take place on Thursday, April 20th at 6 p.m. at the Kiwanis Recreation Center on Dever Street in Fayetteville. And at that conversation, we're going to talk about school safety. Let's talk about it. And so we're going to talk about the wonderful resources and procedures that we already have in place, but we need to hear from you. We need your input and your thoughts on ways that we can intensify our safety and security efforts. So as we think about this event, Mr. Hall, what do you hope will come out of this event that we're hosting with the community?
I hope that the community will understand the task that we have in front of us to keep the children safe, to keep the school safe, keep the staff safe, keep the visitors safe. They need to understand that there are several things that happen that have been publicized lately that cause it not to be able to keep those children safe. For instance, parents getting on a school bus. We've talked about that at length in the media. That takes away from our ability to keep the children safe. I want them to understand that safety for the children doesn't just end at the school doors. It doesn't end at the bus doors. This safety is a constant thing, and they need to be mindful of it even when their child is at home because of social media posts and stuff like that. So I want them to understand that the biggest help for law enforcement, for my section, for the safety of the schools is being vigilant. They need to be vigilant, not just at the school, not just during school hours, but 24/7.
So as we always say, if you see something, say something. And on the screen right now, we're going to put a website and a phone number, and that is for you to share with your students and everyone. If you see something, say something. We want to report it, and we want to keep all of our young people and our staff members safe. And so we just appreciate you, Mr. Hall, and all that you and your team do on a daily basis to help keep our school system safe. So thank you to our viewing audience for watching. It has been an exciting conversation. We heard earlier from a professional soccer player who became a social worker here in Cumberland County Schools. And now we're closing it out with this exciting event where we will have an opportunity to chat with you, our community, about some ways that we can continue to keep our schools safe. So thank you so much for watching. And Mr. Hall, thank you so much for joining. And I hope that everyone will have a wonderful day.